A lot of people think that China is an atheist country, but there are actually different religions coexisting in China. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the history of different religions in China. Are you ready for this video? No? Let's get started anyway. Right now we're in front of the Guangzhou Shamian Island. This island used to be a British colony after the Second Opium War. Back then, only foreigners could live on this island, and then they built a lot of banks and consulates and religious buildings here. There are 2 churches here. So in today's video, we're gonna start off with Christianity first. As you guys can see, this island looks very, very European. The 2 churches that I was talking about, they are nearby. This is a Catholic church. Yeah, it is a Catholic church. You can tell from the top because it's a Gothic building. Let's walk in. All those religious places, they're actually open to tourists. So if I go inside to record, it's not a problem. I know people in the comment section might get butthurt, but there's no need to do it. And let me show you. They have English service here as well. Let me take a look. Yeah, they have biblical sharing and everything. Wow. Church shop. Luke 2:14, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, for God is blessing humankind. And here you can get free booklets. They're not here. I think inside the church they would have more stuff. This is the church shop. Let's take a look at the construction of this building. I need to be quiet after I enter. There are Bible stories on the wall. And you can actually find booklets. This is talking about beliefs. Do you want to know more about Catholicism? Feel free to join our sharing class. This is an envelope for donations. Here it says religion is not magic. And it's not a luxury. Here's the second floor. I don't think we can go. Let's take a look at outside. Again, no hate. I'm just sharing different religions' history and what we see in China. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, or like we should be a believer of one religion, not the other. I'm just sharing everything that we see here, right? As you can see, there's a church and we can enter, tourists can enter to take pictures. There are booklets talking about religions, right? And there are Bible stories outside of the church. This is a Catholic church. There's another one that is Protestant. So you can't find any Anglican churches in China anymore, but in Hong Kong, you can still find Anglican churches because the Anglican church, they're still appointing bishops to Hong Kong. But in mainland China, they're not doing the same. And another thing is when people are talking about Christianity in China, they actually separate Protestantism and Catholicism, because they came to China at different times. I know they're both Christianity, right? But when you're talking about Christianity in China, people will automatically think of Protestantism. If you want to say Catholic, you have to specify, Catholicism. If you just say you're a Christian, people are like, oh, you're a Protestant. But that's probably not the case in other places, right? Just FYI. Right now, we're on the way to a Protestant church. Let's take another look at the Catholic church here. The British people built it. I think the name of this church is, hold on, I don't really remember the name. Let's take a look at the name. You will find something interesting outside of religious buildings in China. It doesn't matter if it's a church or it's a mosque or it's a Buddhist temple, you can always find the Chinese flag outside. Because as a secular country, religions can't go above the national interest. And outside of the religious buildings, you will also find signs saying that if you're not 18, you are not allowed to attend any religious activities. So there's no discrimination. It doesn't matter what kind of religion it is. If you're not 18, you can't really attend any religious events. I'm not trying to say whether it's right or wrong. It's just like a national requirement. You have to be 18 plus. Now let's walk to the other church. There's a police station next to the church. It's funny, huh? The chat was saying that it's not Protestant, it's actually Protestant. This is why English doesn't make sense to a lot of people, because if it's protest, why it should be Protestant? Doesn't make any sense, right? A little bit about my background. I majored in history and I took a few classes for religious studies in Buddhism, and I had my religious period and I was very curious about different religions. This is why I could share a lot of insider views in depth. A few decades ago, all the consulates to different countries in Guangzhou, they were actually located on this island. But the only consulate that's left on this island now is the Polish consulate, and it's on our left-hand side. I can't really film very closely because there are security guards outside. They also have some very interesting historical sites, like the place that FDR's grandpa used to work at. I will show you in a bit. And there's also a Soviet commerce center from more than 30 years ago. The Soviet Union, as we all know, it collapsed already, but they still have a building here. Now we're in front of the Protestant church of Guangzhou on Shamian Island. Let's enter this one. So there are two churches on this island. One is Catholic, this is the Protestant one. Can you see? Yeah, you can see the Chinese flag is outside. And at the entrance, you will see people under 18, they can attend. You can still enter to take a look at everything, but you can't really participate in any religious activities. I know a lot of people, they're like, yeah, people should have the freedom to do whatever they want. Yeah, but it's a secular country. Here you can find a memory of Thomas Albert George Frey, commander aged 26 years, and James Hutchinson, first officer aged 26 years, who with 20 Chinese were drowned at sea by the foundering of HIC in a typhoon. It's to commemorate those people who passed away during the typhoon. See, you see the same sign. If you're not 18, you can't participate. Let me show you. You can see people take pictures everywhere. Love never fails. They're saying no photos for commercial. I will show you the inside. Please do not wear hats and sunglasses. A lot of people, they're just sitting here. Christ Church, Shamian, Guangdong. Oh, this is like a report and schedule. I think a lot of people, they're just resting here. And there are a lot of Bibles over there. Yeah, that's a Protestant church. Here it says, built in 1865. The building has been used at Christchurch till now. After the British won the Second Opium War, they managed to capture this island and use it as a colony. My camera started to overheat, so I will actually sit here and I will give you guys a better understanding of Christian history in China. So Christianity actually entered China at the beginning of the 7th century, but it's not the Christianity that we see now. It's a specific denomination called Nestorianism. In short, in Nestorianist Christianity, they believe that Jesus Christ has two persons. One is human being and one is God. Because they have this disagreement with other Christians, they started the Nestorianism schism at the beginning of the 5th century. So the believers of Nestorianism, they moved to the east. Even till this very day, they still exist. They're known as the Assyrian Church of the East. I'm not sure, what they believe in now. Maybe they have resolved the disagreements already. I'm not a religious person. I'm agnostic. Don't quote me on that. But at the beginning of the 7th century, the Nestorianism believers, they have already entered China and they have created churches in the Chinese capital of that time called Chang'an, which is the current day Xi'an. You can't find those churches anymore. You can only see the ruins of those churches because those churches were destroyed during the second part of the Tang Dynasty. There was a Tang emperor. He really hated Buddhism because Buddhist believers, Buddhist monks, they were exempted from taxation and military service. So that emperor decided to destroy a lot of Buddhist monasteries, and he actually forced a lot of monks to become normal citizens again. So along the elimination of Buddhism at that time, the Christian churches also got destroyed. It didn't last very long because the majority of the believers are actually foreigners. They were not Chinese. The believers at that time, they didn't really force Chinese locals to believe in Christianity, and they didn't preach much. The second wave of Christianity came from the Jesuits. The most famous Jesuit that we know in China, he's actually an Italian person. His name is Matteo Ricci. So this person came to China and he brought a lot of Western technology and Western books to China. And he also learned Chinese when he was in China. And he translated the first Bible in history, if I'm correct. I might be wrong, but he is the most well-known Christian Jesuit in China. He actually passed away in Beijing. He became a Chinese official in Beijing, and he was able to get very close to the Chinese emperor at that time. And that's the story of Catholicism in China. The Jesuits, they got kicked out of China 100 years after Matteo Ricci's death, because Matteo Ricci, he actually allowed Chinese people to practice ancestor worshipping and Confucius worshipping. He believed that those kind of worship doesn't really represent a religious practice. It's actually more like a cultural practice, and it's a ritual instead of a religious belief. So the other Jesuits after him actually reported Matteo Ricci's tolerant policy to the Pope, and the Pope banned Chinese believers from practicing those Confucius and ancestor worshipping. And that created a very big issue between the Chinese imperial power and the religious power. So the Qing emperor at that time decided to ban Catholicism in China because they forced the believers to pick between the traditional Chinese values and Christianity. And that didn't really create a very good relationship. So after that big argument between the Chinese imperial court and the Roman Catholic Church, Catholicism declined in China, and this is why you see more Protestant churches in China, because then Protestant missionaries, they started to come to China, and then they really converted a lot of people. And this is another reason why Catholicism and Protestantism, they are separated in China. Guys, I hope that you're enjoying the religious history that we are going through right now. If you enjoy our content, make sure that you subscribe to our channel by clicking on the subscribe button below this video. I know a lot of you guys are watching our videos on TV, so make sure that you go to YouTube and search for Shamian China and subscribe to our channel over there. If you do that, more people can see our content, and I will be very grateful. Thank you. I actually find it very ironic that a former colony now becomes a very touristic spot. Look at how many people are taking pictures here. It's crazy. This is a Soviet building that I was talking about. Let's take a look. Built in 1916, formerly the Soviet Union Consulate, Guangzhou office for the commercial representative delegation of the Soviet Union. There we go. The Soviet Union is long gone, but this building still stays. It shows how petty humans are comparing to history, right? I don't think anyone is living inside. For the Americans, a little bit of bonus history for you guys. Do you guys know who FDR is? Franklin Roosevelt, your most beloved president. His grandfather from his mother's side, he used to work on this island, and that's the office that he worked at. This building used to belong to an American trading company called Russell and Company, and FDR's grandfather eventually became a drug smuggler. He smuggled drugs between China and other countries, and he made a lot of money that way. But he used to work here at the beginning of the 19th century. Now it becomes a company called Sinopharm. But before, this place is called Russell and Company. You can look it up. His grandfather's name is Warren Delano Jr. If you search on Wikipedia, the first thing that you see is American businessman. The second thing is famous drug smuggler. Maybe some people, they start to get butthurt. They're like, oh yeah, how can you say that? Again, in this video, I'm only talking about historical facts. If you don't like history or you don't like facts, don't argue with me. Argue with history and facts. There's nothing that I can do to change them. Another denomination that we haven't covered in this video is Orthodox. Unfortunately, the number of Orthodox churches in China is very limited. And the clergymen for Orthodox Christianity is also very limited. So unless you are an ethnic Chinese Russian, yes, we do have Chinese Russian in China. It's an ethnic minority group in China. Unless you're one of them, you won't be able to participate in any Orthodox events. But you can still go inside of Orthodox churches to visit, because the majority of the Orthodox churches are open now, not as a religious place, but more like a touristic attraction. If you're wondering whether we have religious schools in China, yes, we do. But in order to attend those schools, you have to be at least 18-year-old. We have to make sure that you are making your personal decision instead of someone is forcing you to do that. You have to finish at least the fundamental education of 9 years before you can study religions. Just in case you're wondering whether babies can get baptized in China, no, because that's another form of religious event. And the babies need to know what they're doing. The babies need to be at least 18 years old. When you're baptizing your babies, I think most of you guys didn't really ask the babies whether they want to be baptized, right? So here it matters. You need to ask them whether it's their personal choice. I know in the West a lot of people value human rights, but it's also very common for parents to baptize their babies after the babies are born. If you really care about your baby's rights, maybe, I'm not trying to say whether it's right or wrong to do it, maybe it's just like a tradition. Maybe you should ask the babies to see whether they want to be baptized. Don't you think so? Again, I'm respectful to all religions. I'm just throwing a very controversial topic out there. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. I love you all. So that's the history of Christianity in China. Now let's go to the very first mosque in China. It's not far away from here, but I think we need to take a taxi. I will see you at the mosque. What's in front of us is the very first mosque in China. Probably you're wondering why the first mosque would be in Guangzhou instead of in Xi'an or along the Silk Road, right? It makes sense. Because those Arabic merchants, a lot of them, they travel to China via the Sea Silk Road. So a lot of them, they actually gathered in Guangzhou, and when they need to practice their religious rituals, they need to have a mosque for that. This is why they built a mosque here. This is the oldest mosque in China. I'm not sure how to enter. We will be able to see some nice paintings outside as well. Let me cross the street here. Ah, over there, you can see. You can see the Arabic merchants and the Chinese officials. They're trading silk for something else. Yeah, those are the Chinese merchants. Those are the those are the Chinese officials. Those are the Arabic merchants. They came here very early, at the beginning of the 7th century. Yeah, Islam entered China roughly around the same time as Christianity. Tower is pretty tall. Let's see whether we can enter. Yeah, the very first Islamic mosque in China. See, you can find Muslims sitting outside. This is so cool. Here it says Guangzhou Hui People History and Cultural Study Committee. Ah, nice. Huaisheng Temple. You can find English here as well. Dear Muslim brothers and sisters, in order to preserve the pure and solemn prayer environment to the mosque, please enter the mosque to participate in religious activities in accordance with laws and regulations. It is strictly prohibited to pray outside of the mosque. Aha! Let's enter. First mosque in China. Here it says, love the country, love the religion. Wow. It's very different from what you would see in other countries, right? Because when the first wave of Arabic merchants, when they are coming here, they could only build mosques inside of Chinese traditional buildings. Wow. Over there it's written Qing Dynasty, Kangxi Emperor. That's around like the 15th century. And here again it says, if you're not 18 yet, no religious events for you. And if we look around, I'm pretty sure we can find a national flag here. People may argue that in China, religions are heavily controlled. Isn't it the same everywhere in secular countries? You can't favor because one person has a different religion, right? It means that everyone should be treated equally. Personally, I don't really care what kind of religion you have. As long as you're a good person, I want to be friends with you. I'm not going to be friends with you because we share the same religions or we are from the same country or whatsoever. Ah, over here, there is a Chinese flag. See, when we entered, like nobody said anything, no questions asked. As long as they're not having a service, we should be able to enter and record and visit for no problem. For all the things that I'm doing here, I'm doing this according to their regulations. If they say no pictures, no videos, I will not take pictures or videos. But I didn't see anything here. This tower has been here for a long time. And you can also find Arabic symbols here, Arabic alphabets. I'm not sure if this is actual Arabic or it's Uyghur language, because in the northwestern part of China, there is a group of ethnic minority group called the Uyghurs. They also use the Arabic alphabet, but they're actually Turkic people. If you know whether it's Arabic or Uyghur, let me know. Yeah. Wow, this is the first time that I'm walking inside of this place. If you speak Arabic, you can tell, but like I said earlier, the Arabic alphabets and the Uyghur alphabets, they're the same. Wow. They rebuilt this mosque. I don't know when, but like it's written in Chinese. It doesn't say when. 至正10年8月. I think it's Qing Dynasty. I have no idea. I don't know what is the 10th year of Zhizheng. I need to do some research. If I don't tell you what this place is, can you tell it's a mosque? It looks quite Chinese, right? With a lot of Islamic elements. But you really need to take a close look. You can find Arabic language everywhere. This is fascinating. Yeah, over there it says if you're a tourist you can enter, and we didn't enter. But it didn't say like you can't film. I'm filming this mosque because I want you guys to get a better understanding of different religions in China. And besides this mosque, there are another few mosques in Guangzhou. This is definitely the most famous one. You know, Islam and Christianity both entered China very early. It's not something strange to see when I came across the fact that a lot of them are actually built more than 1,000 years ago. But I'm still shocked that they managed to keep everything here in a very traditional way. For lunch today, let's get some halal food. I know a lot of Muslim friends, they are wondering whether it's easy to find halal food in China. Very easy. All the beef noodle restaurants that you can find in China, they're probably halal. And across the street, they have some Xinjiang food. If you go to a Xinjiang restaurant, for sure the food would be halal there, if the owner is Uyghur. See, like they look different, but they're also Chinese. They speak Chinese too. So let's see what we can get. Oh, this is a butchery. This is a halal butchery. We can't really eat food. What about this place? Oh yeah, we ate here before. Let's eat again. Yeah, let's eat here again. Let's see what kind of food they have. Lamb soup. Well, lamb soup is the most delicious thing in my mind. And plov. I will get plov and lamb soup. Plov is like a very Central Asian food. 老板拿一份羊肉汤，一份抓饭。一个抓饭，一个羊肉汤。对。好。Maybe they have something that I can drink over there. I don't know. Maybe something that is not so sweet. Yeah, it's extremely easy to find halal food. It's very simple. There are a lot of Muslims, they own businesses, they own restaurants. If you go to like a Xinjiang restaurant, 100% it's halal. As you can see, like they don't look like me, but they speak Chinese because they're an ethnic minority group from the northwestern part of China. My mom was born there. At the end of this month or at the beginning of next month, we're going to Xinjiang and we're gonna do a field trip. We're gonna see a lot of interesting places and try a lot of fantastic food. If you look at the design of this restaurant, it looks very Turkic, right? Very Turkic. Because the Uyghurs, they are Turkic people. They're one of the few ethnic minority groups in China that still manage to preserve their language in the written form. Ooh, the food is here. That's a lamb soup and that's a plov. 谢谢. So this is, it's not really fried rice. That's cabbage. That's pickled cabbage. Pour it on top. Delicious. For this much food, we need to pay like, I think $9 or $10. Not super sure. Okay, let's get a taste of the plov. You can find this in countries like Uzbekistan as well. The rice is very soft. So it's rice and carrot and lamb. So good. I love Xinjiang food. It's the best. And the soup. Oh, lamb soup. They eat a lot of lamb, and I love lamb. Wow, this is so good. So good. After the lunch, we're going to a Buddhist temple. Some live stream viewers are saying they can't understand what they're talking about because they're speaking a Turkic language. If you also speak a Turkic language, you should be able to understand like half of what they're talking about. So all the Turkish languages, they're very similar. I'm pretty sure if Uyghurs, they go to Uzbekistan, they will be able to understand Uzbekistani people's language with no problem. The lamb is so good. So in total for the food, we paid less than $10 for the plov and the lamb soup. That's pretty cheap. I'm surprised. And I want to finish the Islamic Chinese history before we go to the Buddhist temple. Probably you're wondering, how did the Chinese people become Muslims? So there are two main groups. There are more than 10 groups, ethnic minority groups in China. They're Muslims, but there are two main groups. One is Uyghur. They are the owners of the restaurant that we were just eating at. And another one is called Hui. They're Hui Chinese, Hui. So their ancestors are from the Central Asia area. They actually got captured by the Mongolians during the Mongolian invasion in the 13th century. So they were brought back by the Mongolian Khans, because those people in Central Asia, they've been doing business with Chinese people for a long time over the last few hundred of years on the Silk Road. The Mongolians, they didn't really trust the Chinese people because they think that Chinese people would overthrow their regime very easily. So they brought back the Central Asians to run the government for them. They work in the treasury, like they work as accountants, like in the money-related industry, but the Mongolians also didn't trust them very well, so they were separated from the main group. They were sent to different parts of China, and they co-lived with Chinese people, and eventually they got assimilated as well. So for the Hui Chinese now, if you look at their faces, you can't really tell whether they are like Chinese or they're Hui, because it's been more than 800 years. But the only thing that they still keep is the religion. So the majority of them are still Muslims, and they're considered an ethnic minority group, although they don't have their own language or unique facial structure anymore because of the assimilation. That's just the extra part of the Islamic history in China that I want to cover before we go to the Buddhist temple. The reason why I'm making this video is because I'm sick and tired of non-Chinese talking about very outdated information or very fragmented information regarding religions in China, because they don't really know much about the religious history in China. And if you search online, when you search for religions in China, you always find very scary pictures or very crazy thumbnails of how dangerous it is to practice religions in China. I'm not religious, I'm agnostic. I believe in there's a higher being, but I don't know what it is. But I'm generally interested in different religions as a whole because it's always cool to learn something new. In China, preaching is illegal though, because whatever you want to believe is your choice. You shouldn't really share that with other people. Other people, they don't care. You will only make them feel uncomfortable. You should keep whatever you believe in to yourself. That's what most people believe in. And I don't think China is any different from other secular countries. The national interest would always go beyond everything. No matter whatever religion you want to practice, it's your freedom. Just make sure that you don't bother other people. All right, now we're in front of Guangzhou's biggest temple. Let's enter. This is the entrance. Big Buddha temple. And they're selling incense and other worshipping materials here. Incense, you can find incense everywhere, flowers. I'm not gonna enter any of the halls because I can't really take pictures inside, but outside is okay. So that's the Buddha of the future. The laughing Buddha. He's the Buddha of the future. A little bit background story regarding Buddhism. So there are mainly three types of Buddhisms. The first one is Hinayana, which literally means lesser realm. And then we have Mahayana, means greater realm. And we also have another different type of Buddhism called Vajrayana, which means the diamond realm. So all three different Buddhisms, they have the same beliefs, but they have different traditions. So in Hinayana Buddhism, they believe there's only one Buddha of our time. That is the main Buddha. That is Shakyamuni, the Indian prince that eventually became the Buddha, which is in front of us. And Hinayana Buddhism is very popular in Southeast Asia. So if you go to Thailand, their Buddhism is Hinayana Buddhism. Mahayana Buddhism is very popular in China, Japan, and Korea. They believe that there are multiple Buddhas in our universe and anyone can be a Buddha. So in Buddhism, there are three different levels. Number one is Arhat, number two is Bodhisattva, number three is Buddha. So in Hinayana Buddhism, they believe that once you practice Buddhism teachings well enough, you can be an Arhat, which means that you're outside of the life circle. You have reached enlightenment, but you're not a Buddha. But in Mahayana Buddhism, there are three different levels. So anyone can reach the level of Arhat or Bodhisattva or Buddha. And if you look at the Chinese Buddhist temples, as you can tell, it's way much bigger than other religious buildings that you can find. Much bigger than the mosque, much bigger than the Christian churches, right? And the Vajrayana Buddhism that I was talking about earlier, they believe that the teachings of the Buddha can only be transferred via private tutoring. So in Vajrayana Buddhism, they believe that you need to have a private tutor to be your guide, to guide you through the entire process of enlightenment. And Vajrayana Buddhism is very popular in Tibet and Mongolia. In Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhisms, their monks can't eat meat and they have to shave their head. But in Vajrayana Buddhism, they don't have monks, they have lamas. And lamas, they can eat meat and they don't really need to shave their head, and then they can get married. In China, Buddhism also blended in some Chinese gods. So over there we have, that's a god of soldiers. And over there we have God of wealth. So the reason why Buddhism can flourish in China is they don't really force people to believe in one God, and they're really good at adapting to the local traditions. So all those Chinese deities, the Chinese gods, the Chinese pagan gods, they would have a spot inside of the Buddhist temples as well. So it's not as shocking as Christianity or Islam to ordinary people, because for Buddhism, they believe in doing good deeds, doing good things will lead to good karmas and your next life will be better. It actually follows what the traditional Chinese Confucianism teaching as well. This is why Buddhism could flourish a lot better than other religions in China. And this is why like the Chinese Buddhist temples are much, much bigger than other religious buildings, even than the domestic Taoist temples. It's amazing, right? At night, they will turn on all the lights on this side of the temple, and it looks fantastic. Anyone can visit. If you're just walking around, no problem. Nobody will tell you to not do certain things. I'm just here to give you guys an overall introduction to different religions in China. I'm not really saying this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. I'm just sharing the religions in China and their history in China. All right, that's the end of the Buddhist temple. Let's go to a Chinese pagan temple now. Buddhist art becomes a very important part of Chinese art. There are thousands of statues and sculptures like this across China in different cities. Although the imperial power attempted to crush Buddhism multiple times, but they never succeeded. A lot of the time they got persecuted because if you're religious, if you're a monk, you're exempted from taxation and military service. This is why a lot of people would escape their military service by becoming a monk. And the monks, they could hoard lots of lands and money because they don't really need to pay taxes to the imperial power. Every single time when that happened in history, other religions would get influence alongside with Buddhism, because the emperors would just think all religions are bad because they don't want to pay tax and they want to hoard a lot of money and land behind their back. Right now we're outside of a Chinese pagan temple or Chinese folk religion temple. The majority of the deities and the gods inside, I don't really know them because every temple they can have different deities. So the main god inside of this temple should be the city god, and every city has their own city gods, and usually they are real people in history. So I have no idea who is the Guangzhou city god. Let's go take a look. A lot of the things here, they don't really make much sense to me. But it looks pretty similar to the Buddhist temple, right? But it's much smaller. And they have the god of wealth here as well. And if you wait for the Taoist temple, you would realize the Taoist temple, they look very similar as well. So Buddhism and Taoism and the Chinese pagan religion, they actually blended into each other. It looks very, very similar to Buddhism and Taoism. I'm not gonna enter inside for the same reason. I can't really record anything from the inside. But you already get a good understanding, I think. I think that's a city god, but I don't know who that is. I have no idea. If we go to Shanghai, it will be a different city god. And they have different people's names here, like the god of longevity, the god of wealth, the god of, what? God of diseases? Crazy. There's so many different gods. I don't really know who is who. I think for most Chinese, they don't know who is who. Taoist temples, they're very similar to this one. And in Taoism, Chinese Taoism and Chinese Buddhism, they blended in a lot of Chinese folk religion elements. If you look around, you will be able to see the Chinese flag over there, and if you're not 18, you can't practice any religious things here, just like everywhere else. So there's no discrimination. You need to wait until you're 18 to be able to practice the religious activities. And people would burn stuff, burn fake money, burn incense. Yeah, that's pretty much about the pagan temple. It's interesting, right? I don't really know why a lot of people think China is an atheist country. By law in China, you have to be an atheist only if you're a party member. If you are a member of the Communist Party, you can only be an atheist. It's just like if you're a Christian, you can only believe in one God. It's simple like that. Nobody is trying to take away your freedom to believe in other stuff. Atheism is just like the fundamental to join the Chinese Communist Party. This is what they believe. But if you want to be a Christian, if you want to be a Buddhist, it's your choice. Nobody actually cares, as long as you don't preach to other people saying, hey, I think you should be a Christian, you should be a Muslim, you should be a Buddhist, you should be a Taoist because it's better. As long as you don't bother other people, there's no problem. If you want to practice any religious things, make sure that you wait until you're 18, period. That's the bottom line of everything. It kind of makes sense, because if you actually believe in other people's rights, you shouldn't decide for them. If they're not 18 yet, you can't force them to believe in something they don't want to. You can't really let people practice something that they don't fully understand, right? You need to wait until this person is old enough to make his or her own decision, just like a lot of decisions in life. The funniest thing is a lot of Chinese people, they're actually agnostic. They believe in something, but they're not really sure what it is. This is why when they're going to Buddhist temples, they would worship the Buddhas. If they go to a church, they would worship Jesus. If they go to a mosque, they would worship Allah. They would do whatever that can help them, per se. So if you do that, that doesn't really fit in the description of an atheist. So a lot of people are spiritual in China. They believe in certain things, and if you force them to believe in a specific religion, they will tell you no. But if they naturally encounter a religion, they are more than willing to show some basic respect, because they know that religions are 100% personal. You shouldn't disrespect or force other people to do something they don't want to do. Some people, they're wondering whether you can work for the government if you have any beliefs. Like I said earlier, if you are a Communist Party member, you are supposed to be an atheist. You can't hold other religions. Just like if you're a Christian, you only believe in one God. You can't say something like, I'm Christian, but I also worship the god of wealth in China. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't mean like you don't have the freedom to do certain things or to practice certain religions. It's because you had already made your decision. Does that make sense? After half an hour of car ride, right now we're in front of the Taoist temple. There we go. And just letting you guys know, the yin-yang sign and a lot of other concepts that you know they're Taoist symbols. Same with be water, my friend, Bruce Lee's quote. This Taoist temple is pretty big. Here it says that without your parents, teenagers are not allowed to enter. Wow. Still, you can take pictures. This is pretty big. Taoism is a 100% Chinese domestic religion. Some of you guys might think about Confucianism as well. Confucianism is not really a religion. It's more like a systematic philosophy. You can find Confucianist temples, but they're not really there as a religion. In my hometown, we do have Confucianist temples, but it's more for people to go inside to pray for good grades, because Confucius was a very good educator. So over there, that's the founder of Taoism. His name is Lao Tzu. And here, this is the Tao Te Ching. This is the most important book in Taoism. Have different chapters. So Bruce Lee's quote, I think it's somewhere near here. It's about like water is the most thing close to the way. Let me find it. It should be here somewhere. Oh, there we go, it's here. So chapter 8. Here it says chapter 8. 上善若水，水善利万物而不争，处众人之所恶，故几于道. Which literally means the highest form of kindness is like water. Water nurtures everything, but it doesn't really fight for any status. This is why it's closer to the way. So the name Taoism literally means the religion of the way. The way can be understood as anything. So in Taoism, they believe in doing nothing. The original Taoism doesn't really push any ideology. They believe that doing nothing is the best form of doing something. I know it doesn't make much sense, but that's actually the essence of the original Taoist teachings. Then after a few decades, a few hundred of years of development, the Taoist practitioners, they started to look for ways to live longer. They're seeking ways to achieve longevity. And a lot of emperors, they also enjoyed this idea, so they sponsored a lot of Taoists to use some very harmful chemicals to produce harmful medicines. They believe that after taking those medicines, you can live longer, but because there are a lot of harmful chemicals inside, they actually kill you. They make you die faster. But in the past, the emperors, they really favored Taoism and Taoists in general. What's in front of us is very similar to the pagan temple that we saw earlier, right? If I don't tell you this is a Taoist temple, probably it's very hard for you to tell the difference. And it says no photos, so I'm not gonna go inside to take pictures. They have different deities they worship. I have no idea. I think that's the god of wealth. This is someone else. So the same as Buddhism, they absorbed a lot of Chinese pagan deities to Taoism. This is why people are not really against the idea of Taoism. In Taoism, it's more like, oh yeah, like there is another god that people have been worshipping for a long time. Let's invite him to join our religion. I think this is a founder of a specific Taoist denomination. And he belongs to one of the 8 deities. His name is Lü Dongbing, I think. 纯阳仙人. See, like I'm not really very familiar with the Chinese folklores and Chinese myth. Extremely complicated. Here, those little cards are people's wishes. So you pay money over there and you write your wishes on top of the cards and you leave them here and they will come true. This is why I said a lot of Chinese people, they're actually spiritual. This is not something that atheists would do. They believe that as long as they pray to gods, certain things will come true. So that's the definition of being spiritual, not being an atheist, right? In this temple, there are a lot of stray cats. Meow, 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 meow. Hello, hello. Meow, 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 meow. Over there, they have something that you don't find in other religions. Oh, maybe in other religions you see that as well. Those are storage rooms for people's cremated ashes. The reason why China had to abandon burial is because we have a lot of people, and if everyone will be buried, we won't have enough land to bury everyone. So ever since 1970s, 1980s, cremation became more popular, and for a lot of families, instead of getting a graveyard, they would just pay Taoist temples or Buddhist temples a certain amount of money to keep their relatives' ashes inside. It saves more money, and they can get closer to different gods and Buddhas. To be honest, I personally think I know more about Christianity, Islam, and Buddhism than traditional Chinese folk religions. Because for folk religions, they have so many different varieties. And every city, every province, they may have different ways to do certain things. For example, here they have something regarding your Chinese zodiac signs. I have no idea what's going on. If you were born in the year of horse, it's not good this year? I don't know, and I have no idea. Here it says that if you were born in the year of ox, you will either get super rich or super poor, especially when you're doing business or you're a freelancer. Your revenue will be fluctuating. You need to stop investing too much. Okay. It doesn't make much sense to me, but like a lot of people, they would actually believe it for other people. So if you are not born in the year of rabbit, ox, mouse, and horse, for everything else, everyone every year will be affected by this god Tai Sui. So everyone will be blessed by Tai Sui. So following the tradition, we should worship Tai Sui every year to thank Tai Sui. So everyone should worship Tai Sui. What? What did I just read? Everything makes sense, but when you put them together, it doesn't make much sense to me. What? So you should worship Tai Sui, pretty much. Scan the code to worship Tai Sui. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything. I don't really understand, because it seems to be a very Guangzhou tradition. In my hometown, we don't really do this. And how do you worship Tai Sui? You put your address there, put your name or your family's name to let Tai Sui know who to protect. You can also bring incense or clothes for Tai Sui to prolong your family or yourself's longevity and your future. What? Like, it sounds like something that doesn't really make sense, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So there are only 5 religions that are legally recognized in China. That is Catholicism, Protestantism, Islam, Buddhism, and Taoism. So I'm sorry for people who believe in Scientology. Yeah, shout out to Tom. Great actor, but Scientology is not a religion in China. And again, you can find a Chinese flag here, just like all the other religious places. And if you're not 18, you can't attend any religious events. It's not a good idea to tell people your Chinese zodiac, because people can calculate how old you are. If you're not willing to reveal your age, don't tell people your zodiac sign. Some people, they're like, Shim, why do you know other religions very well, but you're not really aware of your local folk religions? It's mainly because it's different for every city, for every province. There are different traditions everywhere. I don't really know which one to follow. There are books out there, but there's no systemic religious rituals that you need to follow. Like, it can be similar, but different at the same time. So if you want to study Chinese folk religions, it's a bit more complicated, and it varies where exactly you learn those religions. Here they tell you how to greet in the Taoist way. This person is wearing the traditional Taoist costume. I have no idea about those different ways to greet. That's it for the Taoist temple. Not very big, full of cats, but it's very different from what you are used to probably. Guys, that's it for this video. I can already imagine how messy the comment section can get. Again, I was just sharing the historical facts. If you're not happy with something that I said, go ahead and debate with history, go ahead and debate with facts. There's no point to be mad at me, the messenger. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you click on the subscribe button under this video. If you do that, more people will be able to see our content, and I will be very grateful. Thank you very much for tuning in. I will see you next time. Adios, amigos. Adios.